Joining us from Washington, D.C. is West Virginia Congresswoman Carol Miller. Congresswoman Miller, thank you for taking time with us. We'll go ahead and get started. The debt limit is facing the country once again. Is there a solution that could somehow border on permanent, or is this just something we're going to have to deal with every few months, it seems, as it comes up?
Well, I've been wearing a pin that says it's the spending stupid, but honestly, we have just got to have a sensible debt ceiling solution. We've got to be very careful what we do. We need to protect the American people. We need to grow the economy. I think growing the economy will actually help save the taxpayers, because we can't just keep reaching into their pocket to finance government.
A bill that recently passed along party lines in the House was the Protect Women and Girls Sports Act. Number one, were you surprised that you were able to pass it? And number two, were you surprised that it went down on a completely partisan vote, that not one Democrat voted for the bill, and substantially not one Republican voted against it?
Well, I found it quite appalling that the Democrats would vote against it. Having grown up in the 60s and lived through all of the women's rights and the marches and all the hard work we did for women's rights, for them to actually turn around and do the exact opposite thing. Party lines, it just makes me shake my head. I am proud of the Republican women for what they've done and what they've stood for.
With a new leadership team in the House, of course, comes new decisions about how the Congress moves forward. And one of those things we've seen are investigations, which have been led by the GOP since the midterm elections. Your thoughts about that, as some things which the Republicans have been clamoring for years to be looked at are being looked at, and do you think that it's an effective tool to try to get to the bottom of some of the issues that the GOP has been concerned about, that Democrats seem to be looking in other directions about other things?
Well, Kenny, the entire time that they were in charge of everything, we got no response to requests for information. And so now that we are in the majority, we are continuing to ask for information in order to have some type of oversight over government. And it's the natural order of things. So what we're doing is the right way to do it.
When you mention investigations in the House, you obviously have to mention Hunter Biden, the president's son. A whistleblower recently came out and said that at least that whistleblower believes that there's been interference from the White House, that this thing has been slow walked by the Justice Department, and that it's not proceeding normally like just about every other investigation the department takes on. What is your opinion on the Hunter Biden investigation and what you've heard from the whistleblower? And do you think that President Biden perhaps acted inappropriately and is somehow involved in all this?
Well, to put it pretty simply, to me it sounds like a lot of home cooking. It is amazing how the press and all of these entities have treated two different administrations. It is the exact opposite of what was done under the Trump administration, and that's very hypocritical.
You've been around a while and you've seen things as you've moved along. And what is your take on, you mentioned the media, the take on the media? It seems like, and I've been watching since I was a kid, Walter Cronkite, it's obviously become much more polarized and probably somewhat much more biased. Has that been your take? And if it is, how do we fix it? Is there any way to move forward to get to a place where we get the news that we want and we need from most sources?
Well, it's the difference in telling the news or interpreting the news. What I do since I've been in DC is I watch a local channel first to find out what's going on here and what the weather's going to be. And then I hit Bloomberg, and then I hit 2 or 3 other channels to hear what the opposing people are saying, and then to hear what my friends are doing, and so that I have all of that information going forward.
Is that what it takes these days? Multi-sources? You can't just depend on one source for your news, or else you're in danger of just getting one point of view?
Well, that's what I'm doing, because I don't want to have just one point of view. I think the more I can hear, the better I can disseminate and figure out what's really going on.
Have a couple more things for you, because I know you need to get back to work. The border crisis indirectly probably affects West Virginia more than it directly affects states like Texas and Arizona and places like that. But as it continues, perhaps the impact that we haven't thought about in the past, which we are now, is the impact of fentanyl as it crosses the border. Is there a border solution somewhere in the midst of the morass of Washington, or are we just doomed to another repeating cycle of people talking about the border but not actually doing much about it?
Well, the cartels are everywhere now, which is really disturbing, but putting up a wall was the right idea, and controlling. We've always been a country of immigrants, but we have to do it legally. And what has occurred, you know, West Virginians, we're very, very sensitive to drug addiction, and this fentanyl is just, it's off the hook. And what they're doing and making things that look like candy, and they're killing us. They're killing our children. So we need to have a very strict border, and we need to deal with all the people that have come through here. Maybe not to our state, but there are some up in our state as well. But how did these, I've been to Del Rio, I've seen the people coming in, and you know, there was a family from Senegal, Africa, when I was down in Del Rio. Darling baby, and the cutest little 3-year-old girl waving, and they were just so happy to be here. But how in the world did they get here from West Africa? Did they take a tourist trip and go to Mexico and walk up? Did they come from the bottom of South America? I mean, how did they get here? We just need to be so much, I don't want to use intolerant, but we have to protect our people, and the crime that is occurring, and the child trafficking, and it goes on and on. The more the news is reporting, the scarier it gets about what they're doing to these children and these people that are coming here, dropping babies at the border. My goodness.
There are those who criticize the GOP's policies that would say it's intolerant, and there are those who support the GOP's policies that say it's just being vigilant. So those are the two sides that we're looking at. A couple of quick things for you on re-elections. First of all, the president. President Biden has announced his campaign for a second term. Your thoughts about that?
Well, that's his business. I happen to want a very strong president, and I think we have had a strong president in the past, and I'm looking forward to moving onward.
Finally, it's expected that at the Greenbrier that Governor Justice will be announcing a candidacy for the U.S. Senate. Senator Manchin, part of the Congressional Caucus in Washington, one of your colleagues in Washington, has not yet made a decision. Says he won't for several months. Representative Mooney, who you work alongside in the House, has already thrown his hat into the race. Your thoughts about Governor Justice entering the Senate race in 2024?
All I can say, Kenny, is my, West Virginia gets more and more interesting as the year goes forward.
Isn't that a Chinese proverb, or may your life be interesting, or a Scottish proverb, or Irish proverb? May you live in interesting times?
Absolutely. It's just very, very interesting. From the time I first entered the House of Delegates in 2006, I could not have forecasted all that has gone on between then and 2023.
Congresswoman Miller, I don't think you'd be alone in that. Thank you so much for taking time with us today on Connect to Congress from Washington, D.C. We appreciate you. You have a great day.
Thank you. It's good to hear your voice.
Good to speak with you again. See you soon.